Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Do Marketing Differently podcast presented by Go Rogue X. This is a podcast dedicated to helping you, if you're a marketer or a small business owner, just to help you do marketing differently because, well, we want to serve first and give value and help you guys stand out from the crowd. So we always bring on awesome guests. We try to provide tips and tricks every single week that will help you do that and stand out from the crowd. I have my awesome co-host, Miss Lauren Lewis, with me today.
Hey.
Hey, how's it going?
Going good.
Good. And we have an amazing guest as well, Mr. Nick Goodner. How's it going, Nick?
I don't want everyone to get their hopes up just yet, but I am a guest. Amazing is to be determined.
I love it. Well, we're already starting off with a bang. This is fantastic. I'm excited to get into this. If you guys don't know Nick is the founder of Creative Church, CRTVChurch. If you're looking out there, we had a fun discussion before we started recording on this. Creative Church, it's an awesome. I've always appreciated everything that Nick's been doing. He has an amazing Facebook group. I can say that it is one of my favorite Facebook groups because he has just done an amazing job with the community there, but really serving church leaders, connecting people, and making sure that he helps get them and their passion out there. And he's done a great job of that. And so we're very, very excited to have him on. And we're going to talk about Facebook groups, but before we get into that, we like to have some fun. What is that, Lauren?
Each week we like to start our podcast out with, what are you obsessed with this week? So starting with our amazing guest, Nick, what are you obsessed with this week?
That's a good question. I keep going back to this well, and I don't know why, but have you guys seen the Christopher Nolan Batman movies?
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. By far my favorite.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, good. We're all
already
on the
best
same
friends.
page.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know what kicked this off, but I started watching the first one, then I watched the second one, then I watched the third one, I rewatched the second one, and I'm really obsessed with the fact that those exist, first off, and second, that they just never made any more of those, and now I'm just really bummed because those were great movies. DC actually had something there with that, and they really let it go.
Yeah, that could have been a big contender for the Marvel Universe, the cinematic universe. I agree with you, Nick. Number 2 is my favorite by far. I mean, Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker was just insane, and honestly, Tom Hardy as Bane. That was so good.
So funny story.
Those movies are well crafted.
They are
well crafted. I actually saw The Dark Knight in an IMAX theater for the first time right after I got my wisdom teeth out, so I was still on pain meds.
Oh.
That movie was terrifying.
It's like the Scarecrow actually.
Oh my goodness, it was
you.
so scary just because it was like already in the IMAX theater. So I mean, it was like so big, and I was like, and it was the first time I had seen it, and I was just like, I think I was just raw from the pain meds. Yeah, it was quite the experience.
That's amazing.
You're like asking your friend, did we go see Paranormal Activity? What was that? That was horrifying. Like, no, it's Batman, Lauren. It's just Batman.
Just calm down. It's just Batman.
Just calm down.
Well, so I mean, this is we can't get down too far into this path. But what did you think of the Joker, Joaquin Phoenix's performance on that? Because it had that same kind of feel a little bit.
I liked the movie. It was good. It's not one I'd revisit. Let me just put it that way. I like the movie. I just wouldn't revisit it that often.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. To Lauren, it doesn't make any sense to me because I went back. I think I saw it 3 times in theaters, and I just watched it recently. I think I put it on HBO Max, and I just watched it. I love that movie so much. But I'm the same way with the Dark Knight series.
You're the only one who has a HBO Max subscription. That's you're keeping that alive.
It's true. It's a lot for the Sesame Street. I mean,
if they'd stop changing the app, you might actually be able to keep up.
Oh, good grief! Yeah, that's a whole nother podcast and a whole nother topic. Anyway, hey, what's your obsession, Lauren? What do you have obsessed with this week?
So we like to talk a lot about TV shows, and I started a new one. What is the face for?
Oh, I'm excited. I'm like,
okay. Picard.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, you're going to love it. Did you like Star Trek? Did you like Next Generation?
So I'm not a huge fan of the main character, and she kind of annoyed me, and so I stopped, but I realized that was a mistake. I need to keep going.
Yes, you did.
And so, but starting Picard, like, it was such a pleasant surprise, and it's so well done. It's really beautiful, and I really enjoy it. And I love sci-fi, so I don't know why I'm just now hopping on this train. But
Did you watch Voyager any? I'm sorry, I just keep interrupting.
No,
Nope.
yeah, no.
No, I haven't actually watched Voyager.
You never watched Voyager, so you might not get some of the tie-ins, but it's a
Yeah.
very good, well done Star Trek show.
Yeah, there's a parent, like, I watched like old Star Trek with like my mom, so like I have like this appreciation for like Star Trek where it is. My husband is watching it with me, and he's like watched no Star Trek, so he was like, "What?" And yeah, it was pretty funny, some of the questions he was asking. I was like, "This is kind of embarrassing for you." So
I'm embarrassed for you in this moment. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so my obsession this week is the ATM Mini. We joked about it literally in the church production world, which we're not using it for church production, but Nick can relate with this. But all of the posts inside of this Facebook group, in the Creative Church Facebook group, it is like, oh, I'm waiting for my ATM Mini to come. I'm so excited. So Blackmagic has released this phenomenal piece of hardware that helps with, any type of video switching and scaling and keying and all the things that I enjoy nerding out over that Lauren does not.
No.
And that's okay, because I have people like Nick on our show that I can be like, I literally got the email right before we started recording that it shipped finally. They've been on back order forever. So B&H came through. Oh, so excited.
What's funny is I'm probably following with Lauren on this one. I'm not a hardware guy, but I'm really happy for you. I really am. I'm excited for what's going on. I don't know what the ATM Mini does.
Oh man, I'm telling you something,
is-
man. If any of the people from the group hear you say this, you may. It's gonna be. I'll fight for you.
I know
though,
I'm a
Emma.
fraud. I know I'm a fraud when it comes to that. That's why I have great friends who really love that stuff, who tell me, they try to keep me informed.
Yeah.
Like how the president is informed by people who, because he doesn't know anything about certain topics. That's me. They're informing me about certain things. I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds very exciting for them. That's so what does that do again? Oh, okay. That sounds good.
Hey, you know what? You owned it, Nick, and I appreciate you for that,
Yeah.
man. Thank you. So I won't be tagging you though when I'm like, "Hey, Nick, look at what it's so awesome." And you'll be like,
look what I got.
man,
Look what I got.
so
I
exciting.
will send you back, congratulations. I'm really excited for you.
I was gonna say, like, anything within like graphic designs aspects and all that kind of stuff. I like making things look pretty, but I just don't
Yeah.
And you do
care
a
how
great
they
job.
work, like the wires behind it.
Well, we were talking before, so if you guys are watching on video, because we record this as well for video podcasting purposes, and so if you guys see in Nick's background, he has his hex codes for black and white, which is super creative or witty. I love that. It's
love it.
pretty cool. And so, yes,
Dedication to
he's.
the brand.
There you go. See, and so it's so funny because when we started talking about kind of brand and brand colors for us, I'm a big black and white guy. If I could just wear black all day, it just makes things so much simpler. I don't have to think about what I'm wearing. And so we started to follow more and more of what you were doing, Nick, and I was like, he's got the black and white brand, and I love it. I love everything about it. So anyway, I'm very excited to kind of get into this and talk through, because again, we've talked about the Facebook group, and if you're out there and you're a marketer who is really passionate about something and especially changing the world, empowering people, this episode is going to be for you, because Nick has a wealth of information and wisdom to share, and we're going to make sure by the end of this, he believes in himself that he was an amazing guest. So make sure you guys send that feedback, because we've been wanting to talk with Nick for a long time. And so, but Nick, I have completely butchered your bio. So please tell us what it is
That's
exactly that you do. And so
done a
just
great
for
job.
people, thank you.
You've done a great job. You really have. So for people who don't know me, don't know who I am, Creative Church, or CRTV Church, it's like my passion, my number one daily grind. It's what I do full time. People are always surprised by that, but I do it full time. And Creative Church is this platform that's designed to bring creatives together and empower them to be who they're meant to be. So we do practical skill development things, and as well as spiritual things, because we're a church and we have a spiritual side as well as a practical side. So we kind of interlace both of those, and we create content, podcasts, events, and opportunities for creatives to connect and develop that side of them, so that they can be more secure in who they are and who God's called them to be and who who they're meant to be. Just before I started Creative Church, though, I went through a hard breakup with a church I was working for. I was on staff for a little under 8 months, and the leadership decided we were going to close up shop. I won't talk about the events that transpired to make that happen. Still a little bitter, but growing up working for churches, my parents they were church planters, and my father was a pastor. My grandfather was a pastor. My great grandfather was a pastor. Like, I come from a long line of pastors. Having a church close that I was on staff, that was very hard. It was a very hard season for me. And in that moment, and helping myself realize that, this is the first time in my entire life that I was at a church. I was at a church. It closed down. It's gone, and I am out here by myself. I'm out here kind of alone, and I don't have a church to work for. I realized that my community only existed in the context of my church. And to me, that was a huge problem. And I thought to myself, a lot of other people are dealing with that, where their community is only in the context, if they're working for a church, it's only in the context of their church. So what could we do to solve that problem? Now, I know there's events that were going on at the time. You had Seeds was a big one. The church down at Fellowship Church at C3. And those conferences, they help bring creatives together, but then they only happen once a year. So my solution became Creative Church, which was a permanent, constant community for church creatives that acted a lot like a church. And that's literally what, we behind the scenes here at Creative Church, we always say we're a church for church creatives. And that's kind of helped give us context as for what we do and what the content that we create or the events that we create. And then we kind of run everything else behind the scenes like a media company would. And that's how we generate income and keep the church going. So that's kind of my backstory. That's where I'm at. Other than that, I live in Orlando, and I'm married, and I have a dog. My dog is a miniature schnauzer, and my wife's name is Lydia. So that's kind of me in a very tight nutshell.
Yeah, I love that. And that actually, again, that brings a lot more clarity too, because we knew somewhat of what you did, but even with that, I mean, I would say this, it naturally drew us as church creatives, right? So for those that don't know, Lauren and I met at church. My wife is best friends with her, and so we kind of started this, like, just basically helping the creative team just develop these processes and stuff. And then we found the Facebook group and what you guys were doing. And so it just naturally pulled into that direction. And so you're accomplishing your mission with Creative Church. I mean, it's been phenomenal for us. And so really, it's one of those things too. I mean, how have you from the beginning really been able to build that? So, I mean, you kind of mentioned it about like, hey, this is what I want to do, but what were kind of some of the practical steps that you actually put in place for your organization, but then also just, even around the Facebook group itself?
Yeah. So, I definitely made a lot of mistakes doing this. I've been at it for 5 years. I don't know that I had a formula starting out. And I think that showed for any kind of growth. Because when we started, I literally just went and followed a whole bunch of church creatives that I knew on Instagram. And then a whole bunch of people caught wind of it. And we just had this like explosive growth, like just boom. Like we had 10,000 people within 6 months.
Wow.
And, for a brand new Instagram account, that is huge.
Yeah.
And so, we began to kind of see, the business mind of me, because before I ran Creative Church, I owned a business helping nonprofits and government organizations kind of stabilize themselves financially and help them with that strategy. So the business side of me is going, well, can we capitalize on this at all? And off this growth. And so we began to create things that, actually meant something to the creatives that we're creating for. And that's kind of whenever we started implementing things that actually help sustain our growth and continue to grow. A lot of those things are like creating content, being there for them, and then starting to operate kind of like that church where we're creating events or creating meetups to connect these creatives. yeah, I don't, yeah. So does that answer your question at all?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I knew about the kind of that explosive growth up front,
Yeah.
because that's pretty cool. And especially with, I think naturally, I mean, you're a very talented designer, and I think a lot of that played into it, where it's like you can't be he's shaking his head right now. It is true, Nick. So it is one of those things that's like, I think on the back end of that, of being able to see an account that does resonate with, you can't say, hey, we're creative, or hey, we're a video company, and then
Yeah.
not be able to shoot video well. Like, you have to do whatever it is, the community you're building, you have to have some type of, not authority, but obviously understand the struggles and what it's like to go through that process. So absolutely.
Yeah, I've absolutely loved the group, just because I think finding that church creatives on a whole just tend to be really overwhelmed. They wear a lot of hats. They can also be sadly underappreciated for what they do. And so when we were serving on the creative team, this was the first Facebook group that I've ever wanted to be a part of that actually was helpful. There's so many of them that are supposed to be, but they're not. And this one was so supportive, and I love all the resources that come through, as well as I love the people that share their graphics. I think it sparks ideas for me, and we've talked about this. Did you see that? Like, it was so good, and somehow sometimes we wish we could be more edgy like other churches and have more skulls. We're all about that.
We do push that envelope a little bit, and for the most part, we have a pretty forgiving congregation, but there are a few things that we pulled out there like, what was that again? You have goats and also snakes running around somewhere. Like, well, anyway.
Yeah. Anyways, through all of that,
look on their face.
As we play that bumper for church, everyone's
oh yeah.
So have you stayed true to yourself as an admin running a group, even when that's challenging, especially if you have a lot of people? You're going to see a large variety of church creatives that are coming from a lot of different backgrounds.
Yeah. So, do you guys subscribe to the Enneagram at all? Is this going to mean anything to you? Okay, so you understand kind of the context of the Enneagram. So I fall on the Enneagram 8 side of the Enneagram. So remaining true to myself is not a very hard thing for me to do.
This actually explains a lot. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. I'm like, okay, all right, now we understand.
Being very honest with like myself, like what I can do, what I can not do, and portraying that to other people. It's not very hard for me. I think the biggest threat to my existence, like it would crumble my world if someone meets me and they go, man, you're not how you act on social media. Like, I think that would be like the thing that goes, oh my God, what have I done to fail these people? Because I don't ever want to get into that point. So like, it's kind of hard. It might be a little difficult for me to answer this because I don't know what I would do without being authentic to myself or being true to myself. I don't think I'd have a group if I wasn't that way. I don't think I'd be running it, that's for sure, if I was that way. If I had to put on a mask, it just wouldn't make me, who I am and the person that I am.
Yeah. Well, we talked about that too when we were just kind of prepping for your episode, and just like, hey, what do we want to talk about? But that was one of those things that really stood out to us with you, of especially during kind of the racial divide and the racial tension that's been going on, the social justice. You really took a stand, and we appreciated that. I saw that, and I was like, there's not a lot of admins that are doing that. They just want to, not keep the peace. I mean, you did it in a very professional way, but it was just one of those that's like, hey, I want to be a part of this even more, just because I know now what you stand for and what you will tolerate, what you won't. But it wasn't tolerate. I mean, there was a lot of even those comments and questions where people were genuinely just don't know, and there's a lot of grace, and that is something that you don't see, especially in the social media world. But you've done a great job of kind of keeping true to yourself. And do you have any advice maybe for some admins who are kind of going through, maybe they're not one to kind of be a challenger, to kind of put things out there, and they are a little more reserved, but what advice would you give to other admins of groups like this?
Yeah, just don't do anything that's outside your comfort zone so far that you ruin your own happiness. That's a big thing. I know there's some people who are admins who've come to me and they've told me, we didn't say anything because, it's just not in our nature to say anything. And I have a little grace for it. I can understand. I know that, again, an issue like this with the race thing, and what's going on with the Black Lives Matter movement, an issue like this that you're not speaking on raises some other red flags for me.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard for me to have a lot of grace for it, but I can have some and understand, maybe they just really would, really destroy them to speak out against this. So I can get with that. But at the same time, whenever something like this is important, that's happening not only in your culture, but in your group's culture, because creatives are on the front lines of interpreting this movement, I believe, to their pastors and their church congregations. And, if I'm not helping them define what kind of stand they need to take, or informing them or educating them, then I'm not doing my job.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the group is essentially about. So like, if you don't do anything that's going to rob you of your happiness, but yet at some point you have to realize that conversations are so big that you either have to weigh in, or your silence is going to look like a betrayal.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people saw that during this time. A lot of group admins who remained silent. A lot of my friends came to me and they were like, that looks like a betrayal. That's what that looks like. And they didn't say anything. They didn't post anything. They didn't make any messaging towards it. And I'm not tooting my own horn and saying, "Ooh, I did such a great job." But I just want to warn admins out there that whenever things like that happen and you're reserved and you shut down, and you don't even say, I stand with my people. Like, you just completely nothing. That's going to look like a betrayal to some people. So you want to make sure that you're doing things that you can put out, that you remain satisfied with your life, but yet at the same time you don't want to miss those big cultural conversations like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that, I think, even again, going back to that, I mentioned the grace thing. It was really for people who were asking the questions, like, I don't know how I'm supposed, like, this is kind of the first time I'm even having some self-realization, and I don't know what questions to ask, or I'm trying, and there wasn't an outpour of people like, how dare you? You should absolutely know. You should, and you did it a great way of educating the people, to where even my stuff I learned through that. And I'm like, wow, I had never thought about it that way. And that helped me kind of have even more empathy in that situation, and only wanted to make me learn more in that moment too. So.
Yeah. I think also, kind of obviously not taking that from the racial aspect, but like taking it down to just like silence on issues in general. I think we see a lot when we're working with clients in social media, and they'll get a bad review and they don't want to address it because they're like, well, it would look bad. And I'm like, it looks way worse when you don't say anything.
Or you disable all the reviews or comments or anything like that. Like, oh.
So
right.
Yeah, I think always finding your voice and being able to communicate well is always really important. So we really appreciate what you've been doing in that group for sure. So thinking about creatives in general, we talked a little bit that they can be, creatives are just an interesting breed as well. But I kind of work as a project manager over a lot of creatives, so it's always.
You have a book that what is it?
Herding Tigers.
Herding Tigers. She's like, how to manage creatives. I was like, that's a great book for you. Actually.
Yes, it is. But anyways, they can also be it's an interesting group that I think during, especially like COVID times, we see a lot of creatives that are, they're going above and beyond right now to find creative ways. So how have you found a way to easily encourage creatives without, I don't know, being cheesy and like, you got this, without, actually being authentic about it?
Sometimes the best words you can hear are, you got this, like, honestly. And that's just the truth. Whenever things are happening with COVID, like, we made some cheesy posts, like, like stuff that you probably already know, but man, you needed that reminder today. You needed somebody saying it outside of, you telling yourself, I got this. You needed other people to tell you that you have this. And this, again, part of our mission with Creative Church, whenever we're developing people spiritually, you have to remember that to be developed spiritually, you have to be encouraged, right? So we want to encourage people. So encouragement is always a big part of what we do. Because I'm an Enneagram 8, I get honest with people real quick. And if I don't encourage people, they'll just feel like they're being punched all the time with truth bombs. And I don't want to just punch them all the time with truth bombs. I want to remind them that the situations that they're in, they can handle and they can take, and they do have this. But especially with, what happened with COVID and the changes that had to be made in a lot of churches very quickly, they needed that reminder that whenever they hopped on social media, they got into their group, that we were there to be there for them. Like, we changed everything that we are doing. We erased months of content that we had planned, only to gear it towards helping them do what they're dealing with right now. And that comes down to a lot of empathy and a lot of listening. We have 2 ears, 1 mouth. That means we got to listen twice as much as we talk. And as a group admin, as a community leader, wherever you fall on the social media management scale, you are going to want to be listening to the problems that your audience is facing and coming up with solutions for them. That's the most important thing you can ever do, because it becomes really easy to encourage people when you know what they're going through. It becomes really easy to drop a word that, might sound cheesy, but can affect their life in a big way, just because you had the audacity to just shut your mouth and listen for a little while and see what they were actually going through. It's not something you're going to find in a customer survey either. You got to actually actively people watch your community to actually understand what it is they're actually dealing with.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. That's I think even in general, you've done it in a way of encouraging people, of just grabbing their attention. We always talk about stopping the scroll, right? And you've done it in a way that it's a graphic, but yet it's done well to where it grabs your attention and you're like, oh yeah, like, hey, you are loved. You do matter. And that's such a, even as I mean, we're pretty open about mental health, around here, and just and taking care of yourself. And so there's that one statement of "you matter." To me, that resonates to me probably way more than even with my wife. Like, she sees that and she's like, "Yeah, I do matter." But like with me, it's a deeper thing. And so you've done that encouragement in a lot of ways that really help you. Like, just scrolling through, like, oh, hey, appreciate that today, Nick. Needed that. That's awesome. Well, and even talk about that. I mean, we especially during the pandemic and stuff that right at the beginning, it was discouraging for a lot of people because people were scared. They didn't know what was going to happen, not just about the virus, but the whole world is changing, right? And so you did a thing kind of right out of the gate, which was Couch Fest, right? And talk to us about that, because that was really when, from a marketing standpoint, I know you did not intend this, but from a marketing standpoint, seeing you go every single day, or I'm trying to think of how many times a week that you did it, but it was like, it was always showing up like, hey, we're going to have this guest. We're going to have this guest. I was like, oh, I need to pay attention to what's going on, because you were actually doing a lot. You know what I mean? And so that did help kind of bring the awareness of the group up, because you're doing something different, which we like around here. But talk to us about that. What was your kind of mindset going into that?
So Couch Fest happened in 24 hours, literally. From inception to design to rollout, it happened in 24 hours.
That's amazing.
We had the guests lined up, because I did tell everyone that we're going to do some live talks to kind of help people navigate this stuff. But then it was like, no, we can't just do live talks. Like, we got to make it, this has to be something. And so I came up with this idea of, sitting on your couch, and it's a couch fest. And so literally I did the initial design, but I sent it to someone else who was going to design my t-shirts and things. And they came up with a way better design. This is what I was saying. I'm not really a good designer. I'm a good logo maker.
Yeah.
I can do logos really well. But like, when it comes to like, oh, I need something like really creative to go on a t-shirt, don't call me. Because I can't help you there. And so I sent it to him. He got that to me like midway through Couch Fest, and we had it. So we started using it as a logo. And it was again something that, because I was listening to the audience, I knew what was coming down the pipe. And that's the thing, like, the longer you listen to people, the more perceptive you become as a creative. And that's really what we want to get to. We want to become almost like fortune tellers, not because, we can read the future, but because we just smell the blood in the water. And that's what was happening. I was like, I could smell it in the water. I know something is we're going to need something to really rally people at the beginning of all this. And that's where CouchFest came from. And we knew already what the needs were going to be. We knew people were going to need live streaming. We knew people were going to have to figure out ways to connect with their kids online. We knew that people were going to have to figure out how to connect with their guests, how to translate people who are watching for the first time into their community. So I just tapped the people who I thought or believed could speak on it, and they went and just blew me away. They impressed me because they knew exactly what they were talking about. And it really became a big thing for our community. And I think we will do it again next year. Hopefully not because we have a pandemic, but because we can actually, give that to people.
Yeah. I love that. That's I hear a theme kind of keeping going. Like, you're a great listener in that, and we talk about especially in our different businesses and stuff, about paying attention to what people are saying and being able to describe the problem better than they can describe it. I don't know if you know Pat Flynn, but he's just one of those guys that's a big proponent of that. Like, you should be constantly listening, because that helps you solve their problem even before they know they have that problem. And I think that what you talked about, just bringing on those people and having that conversation, like, hey, again, feeling like we're all in this together, which, I mean, that was obviously the tagline too. It's like we're all together alone. And so it is one of those things that, like, it definitely made you feel like that, like, oh, okay, I'm seeing other people are having issues with church stuff, and hey, how do you do the stream, and what are we doing, like all of these things. And then I was able to chime in on some of that stuff because we've been streaming for the past year and a half or so. We got on early when a lot of people weren't, just to try it out and see what we could figure out. And so I was able to help people, and then other people who were more advanced were able to help me. And it's almost like you just put the right people in the room, and you just kind of like, okay, all you guys help each other, but you're like, hey, I know this is a problem, and all of you can help each other with this. So I'm just going to start this thread, and then you guys just all help each other in there. It's just, you're facilitating those conversations. That's one of the key areas. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, no, I think it's totally, we run into a lot of people, obviously with our clients that want to start a podcast, I want my social media channels to be huge and everything, and they want all the followers, but they don't really like people. And that can always be a problem, because I'm like, well, you got to have to listen to them to actually grow that, unless you're going to do it a real slimy way. Mm-hmm. And so it is really cool to see authentically people enjoying each other, other people, and actually truly listening, which is really important for sure. So
you don't have a fun time on social media if you don't like people. I'm just going to throw that one out there.
Right.
It's really hard for you.
It's always fun when they talk about, they're like, well, I really want to grow my podcast or whatever. And we're like, well, who are you talking to? How are you promoting? Are you, going through and having conversations with people? Like, literally, you can pull up a hashtag of what your podcast is about, and then just start answering questions or interacting. Well, I don't really have time for that. Like, well, okay. All right. Well, good luck.
It doesn't interest me. Well, all right, have fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, speaking of people, one of the things I think that intimidate a lot of people when they think about starting a Facebook group or maintaining a Facebook group is that people are human and they do stupid things and say whatever comes to mind. And so, with having a larger group, how do you keep your group healthy, and how do you handle people just being people?
So, it comes down, I consider myself to be that kind of cultivator of like the culture. And so, like, what do I want to see in the culture, and what do I not want to see? So I have some hard no's that I don't want to see. I do not want to see any disrespect. I believe that respect is something that should just be given freely. Trust, on the other hand, that can be earned. But for me, if you're not respecting other people, you're not gonna find yourself in this group for very long. And you also have to give trust to people that they're going to follow the rules, or they're going to, listen to what you're leading or how you're leading. I know a lot of my counterparts have gone to post approval in their groups, which is a great, fine thing. But as soon as you do that, you really need to take that we're a community out of your bio, because you're not a community anymore. The second you go to post approvals, what you are is a resource blog and your Q&A, and that's all you are. Because we have to give people the freedom to post what they want to post and have a little bit of ownership in this group. even though sometimes it's things that I don't really particularly care that they're posting, discussions that they're having that I'm like, I wish we wouldn't be having that discussion right now. I kind of have to live with that fact because this is how community happens. They post something that they may be excited about or they may have questions about, and other people weigh in, and this is how conversation starts, and this is how community happens naturally. So I can't be the person, deciding what gets talked about all the time. I have to kind of go with the flow of where the community leads. And it's a big deal for me to keep trusting the creatives that are in the group to be the creatives in the group and take ownership in what they're posting and follow the rules that we've set in place or the guidelines. And even if you cross those guidelines, those rules, I've been known to give grace at least once. Some flat nose, I will say some flat nose are just, if you get in there and you are just tearing people apart. We had one guy early on, this is anecdotal, but we had a guy early on who, man, every time someone would post, he'd be right there to give the harshest, nastiest critique. And I grabbed him, I pulled him aside into a chat, and I said, hey man, listen, you can't do that. That's like rule number one in the group is respect everybody and be kind. Well, they need to know and they need honesty. And I'm like, no. They do need honesty. You're absolutely right. But the way you're giving them honesty is not in a kind way. And that's where you're losing them. Mm-hmm. And all you do is you're just looking argumentative. He called me an authoritarian and he blocked me and left the group. But I kick people out of that group like that because I want to keep the culture. The easiest way to keep the culture is to make an example of someone breaking the rules and show what happens whenever those rules are broken. And you can't come along, you can't be in this group if you can't be kind, if you can't respect other people. And I don't let those people stick around for long because what they'll do is they'll start to erode the culture that I've been working to build or the one that I've been working to make. They'll start turning it into a message board for venting about your pastor, which we kind of talked about a little bit before. Mm-hmm. There's no venting about your pastor or leadership in my group. We just don't tolerate anybody in there to fuss about your pastor or your leadership because that's not really something that you need to go to a group of 10,000 creatives to talk about. You can go to your friends, you can go to your wife, you can go to your dog, but you can't go to our group and talk about it because whenever you start doing that, all you're trying to do is rally people to your side so that you can say, well, I know better than him. And that's just going to continue a discord between you and your leadership that I don't support. If you can't respect your leadership in that way, I don't want you talking about it in your group and building a case against him as to why he's wrong whenever we don't know his side of the story. And we're not your mediators for that. So venting in the group is off limits and not being respectful. So just keep facilitating that culture to grow people to understand that this is what we want to see in the group and what we want to see in the community.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and that helps. As just like with any job or any place that you go to work, you have your one bad apple, and if somebody doesn't deal with that or it doesn't really coach them out, a lot of times like you'll lose good people. And I've seen that in other groups where people are just like, I'm just tired of this, And so you don't hear about all the kind of the passives, the people that are in the middle who are watching these things go down. And kudos to you for doing that because that is really hard because again, especially in something where it is tied to, Christianity and the church and all promoting that same thing. You would think that we're all in this together, but everybody has opinions and it's hard to be self-aware sometimes. And so you do earn that respect from other people by doing that.
I'll say this, it's because I help plant churches. That was kind of what I grew up cutting my teeth doing. My parents helped plant churches. I helped plant churches. And I watched pastors beat themselves up when they got a volunteer who was good at their skill level, right? And this might be off subject for the audience, but I'll go this rabbit trail. They beat themselves up because they were good at the skill level. They showed up, they were on time, but man, they were a toxic person. They sucked. They were just a bad personality, right? And so they keep them around because they showed up. And I learned from watching them that if I'm only keeping a person around because they're doing something for me, that is not love. Mm-hmm. What the loving thing to do is to say, hey, you can't be a part of this volunteer team. You can't be part of this team. You can't be part of this community because your attitude sucks. So you need to go sit down and take some time away from what we're doing and learn to help fix your attitude. Then we can come back when you're a healthier person. I don't like keeping people around just because they add to my number count, or, you know, they're influential in the group. If your attitude sucks, we've had a conversation about it, and I've given you grace to try and fix it, and we just keep coming back to the same thing, then it's time for you to go ahead and move on to another group, because it's just not going to work for you. It's just not going to work out for anybody. You're just creating a hostile environment for me. First off, it's all about me, really, at the end of the day. Like, you're a pain in my side, so, you know, I'm kidding. But, you know, you're creating a hostile environment for the rest of the group. Like, people who are in this group, you are making it uncomfortable for them to be a part of this, and that shouldn't be the case. I mean, I'm all for being a little bit uncomfortable while we're growing, but to be uncomfortable because somebody's going to yell at me because I didn't do design right is not something I want in the group.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Yeah, and I'm just thinking about too, because like if somebody is leaving your group, you guys have done specifically a great job of promoting other groups as well. So I know like James of Visual Media Church, just we love their products and what they're. I mean, just it's just a phenomenal service and a company, and but you do a great job of you guys cross promoting each other and stuff. So I'm thinking like if somebody actually left your group and jumped into his group, I'm like James wouldn't tolerate that stuff either. It's so funny. You guys are just really well connected because it's like that is what's needed, and this silo of like we're right and you're wrong just doesn't help anybody. And so I think you guys have actually promoted like StreamYard as well, was one of your posts, I believe, and so we've started using StreamYard, and so there's other products.
Monkey or StreamYard?
Oh,
I'm so sorry, StreamYonkey. I'm so
you've messed up the sponsor's name. Now I gotta go talk to them. I gotta beg
Shut
for
him
their
down.
forgiveness.
Shut him down.
He didn't know what he was talking about.
He did. We'll edit this part out. It's totally fine. But no, you guys have done a great job of that. And really, I mean, it is one of those things that you don't see that a lot. You don't see others say, hey, why don't we talk about your group? And why don't, you know, and again, not that this may be a better place for you, a better fit, but a lot of times it is that. And that's something that is has been a great resource too. But so just kind of wrapping up here, Nick, tell us really, you know, what is next for you? What's next for Creative Church? What's next for the group? What's next for all the things that you guys are doing?
Yeah. So what's next for us? We've got a lot of stuff that got pushed aside because of COVID. So we have a podcast that we used to have. We're bringing it back, and it should be dropping sometime in July. And then we also have YouTube videos that we've been working on. And again, because of COVID, it just didn't seem appropriate to launch that stuff yet, because it was taking away from the conversation at the time, and we didn't want to be about that, so we held on to it. So I think probably, you know, it just depends on when we're going to start releasing that stuff. But the next big thing that we have is something called Creative Church 24, or Creative 24, or CRTV 24. Just remember, anytime I say creative, I'm taking the vowels out. So CRTV 24 is a conference that we're doing in October, on October 23rd. And it'll be the first of its kind. It's a global 24-hour creative conference.
That's awesome.
Live streamed, and we're going to have guests from hopefully all around the world. And we're going to be up for 24 hours. And we'll have breakouts with, you know, Zoom sessions and just times to talk as a community, walk through some things, and then we'll have some sessions led by at least 36 creatives, because that's how many you need to fill a 24-hour time slot. So we're really, really excited about that. And tickets, if the podcast is now, whenever in August, tickets should already be on sale. You just have to check out the Creative Church group or creativechurch.com to get those. And I think they're going to be Again, we're recording this 3 months out, but so I think they're going to be about $29, or it's not much, but
you stated it, so that's what they've got to be now. So you can't go up on that price.
They're going to be at least $29 now.
Love it, and that's awesome. Oh, and it's even different. So I'm thinking about this because I've seen other live streaming events and different conferences, but you're doing it in a different way. We love doing marketing differently, and you're doing it in a different way in the sense of like it's a 24-hour thing. So it almost makes me, I'm like, oh, cool. It's something I get to, like, we're going to stay up for 24 hours and see how long we last. And all. I mean, that's a great concept.
I won't make it.
You don't like it. That's fine. Anybody,
I feel like I'll fall asleep.
Here's what you need to know. The ticket comes with a Restream pass. So even if you fall asleep, you still got the content. So you're not going to miss anything. And we set it up for that. I liked it because I learned very quickly watching other people do live events for digital. 4 days for a conference like you normally would do, man, people get bored with that. Even when we did Couch Fest, it was like 5,000 people the first day, 3,000 people the next day, 200 people the third day. Like people just get bored. Like they're just like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I understand. Like I get bored whenever I see things multiple days online. So I thought, well, hey, 24 hours. I mean, it's done in one day, and if you miss anything, you can just restream it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I love that. That's fantastic. That's so awesome. All right. So any kind of last words, any encouragement that you want to? I mean, we've got listeners who obviously are in different areas of marketing, but also within the church world as well. Anything you want to say to them?
Just keep. We talked a little bit about finding your voice and how easy it was for me to find my voice. Keep striving for that. If you're not very good at it or you want to put up the mask, learn to have the self-realization in yourself and the honesty in yourself to be a person who is yourself all the time. Because social media it's very easy to put up a mask and be the person we think you should be. And all that does is lead to a lot of grief. A lot of sadness because you start portraying a duplicate of yourself, and then you suddenly have to work harder to keep up this mask, and you start losing your true intent and your true purpose. I believe God has called each and every one of us with a unique purpose, and I believe in finding that and letting that guide your life, and remaining true to it as you're developing on social media and marketing and such.
That's awesome. Love that. That's a good word. Yeah. Thank you so much, Nick. Well, and thank you so much for being on our podcast. And so obviously you guys can find Nick, CRTVChurch.com. Make sure you guys reach out to him if you have any questions. Where can they follow you?
You can follow me at Nick Goodner, and that's Nik Goodner, Godner. See, even I spell my name weird. And that's on all social media platforms. It's Nick Goodner. And then Creative Church, you can find CRTVChurch. If you search, the group's going to pop up. The Facebook page is going to pop up on Facebook. And then, of course, on Instagram, it's going to pop up. If you look for us on Twitter, you'll be disappointed. So don't follow us.
Yeah, we're the same way.
We don't post anything on Twitter. Twitter's a hotbed it's a hotbed.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a good place to go to for like trending events that are happening right now. If I need some information, they're great. But other than that, we've traded away. But anyway, hey, also if you guys have missed anything during this episode, if you didn't take the notes or whatever, we have them all for you over at GoRogueX.com. Everything's there. Everything Nick talked about and that we talked about will be there. So make sure you check that out, as well as the video and stuff of his awesome background and everything that we've got going on as well is going to be there. So make sure you check that out, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks. Okay, all right, Nick, are you ready for rapid fire, my friend?
I'm ready.
Lauren, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, let's do this.
Okay. What was your first job?
First job, I worked as a condo cleaner in Destin, Florida with my grandparents at the age of 10.
Whoa.
There's so many questions I have about that. That's interesting.
Condo cleaner.
I then went I started selling candy at school at age 11, and teacher shut me down.
I was gonna say, did you get shut down?
Yeah,
I did get shut down, and then I went on to mow lawns for 2 summers in 13 and 14.
That entrepreneurial spirit, man.
You know, I'm a formerly licensed teacher, and so you don't know how many kids we had to shut down for that. Like,
man, let them sell.
Selling out of their locker.
Yeah.
Like, I blame that experience as to why I hate the school system so much.
Oh no!
Because it eroded, it took away a natural spirit in me to sell, and like I was making bank. I was making close to $100 a week, and that as an 11-year-old.
Whoa!
Holy crap! I mean,
that's
like,
awesome.
And I had the system, like I knew what people liked, and you know, I don't know where I could have been today had teachers just let me.
Yeah. So, candy connoisseur. Who knows? Making your own chocolate.
I understand why, but it wasn't a good. It's not a good why. It's not good.
I love it. All right, Lauren. What about you? First job?
I was a barista at 12.
Oh yeah, because your parents owned a coffee shop.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I was pulling shots at 12.
Goodness.
Wow.
The first one I thought about was that when I was 16, or I guess 15, I worked at Sonic. As
there you go. Did you roller skate?
I didn't know. Actually, I did at one point. They were paying me cook salary, and I was car hopping. I was like, this is the best of both worlds. Like, I get the money and also get the tip and get to go outside, which is nice. But
always the most controversial. Do you tip at Sonic?
Well, people used to. Now you can't. I mean, it's so hard to tip now.
What do you mean? Like just throw it at them?
Well, I mean, I
like
just
the
paying
moves
cash.
of not tipping anyone. I think that every employee should be paid a proper wage, and I should not have to do the math at the end of my meal.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, that is true. That is very. Okay. Oh man, we're coming full circle here because I did car hop. I could count change quickly, so I actually got to where I could round up and know what a tip is, and so maybe Nick, you should go car hop. That would help you at the end of your meal. You
were gonna say you got really good at math, and I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, no, that
See,
not help me.
I have a standard tip that it's over the 20%. Don't it's over the 20. I just have a standard tip. I just leave that, and I'm just like, here you go. I know It's over the 2020%. I just don't feel like doing the math.
Yeah. Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely. I have to round it out.
And I'm sure they appreciate that.
Oh, just go. So you're not the guy that puts a dollar bill or $100 on the table like every time you mess up.
I'm not.
I want to take away.
I'm not Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
I'm not Dave Ramsey. Gosh, come on.
Let's make sure to not tag David this. Like, who is this guy? What is he talking about? All right. Anyway, okay. Next question.
Knowing our audience, what is your biggest graphic design pet peeve?
Oh.
Wow. Oh, dang. Skip me. Come back to me.
Hey, Brian.
Could you tell me what my graphic design pet peeve is?
So it's really funny that we've talked a lot about like grace and being really respectful. Because I do a lot of our slides for church announcements and everything. And so the other day, I'm actually the women's director at our church as well. And I did one, and I knew I had broken several design rules. I was just trying to whip it out, and I knew Brian's going to tell me. And he rolls over on his office chair, and he looks at it and he goes, I hate it.
I don't remember. I don't think I said I hate it.
Yes, you did. You were like, I hate it.
I'm so sorry, Lauren.
It's okay.
So
you were
sorry.
right, though, in all the things I had broken. And I fixed the rules I broke, and it did look much better. So
I'm very simple. Just very simple. As like, it's crazy because our designs, a lot of times, are not simple, but that's what I prefer. Yeah. I'm like, just keep it very simple. Just very simple. Anyway,
very honest.
You always feel like you have to add to it.
Sure.
What's yours, Lauren? What's your design pet peeve?
This one's kind of specific. I don't know if it's like graphic designers are all over. So I am not a girly girl. And so I just hate within graphic design that everything dealing with women, the fonts all have to curl.
And
yes.
I
hate our logo. I'll be honest.
Wait, our logo?
No.
My
women's ministry logo, because it's
that
got
happened
the curl.
Before you. We'll do a rebrand at some point. That's fine.
It's just one of those things. Everything about it just it bugs me, and it's going to be flowers and butterflies and curly font.
Oh yeah.
And I hate it.
All women love that.
That's
because
all women just love flowers, butterflies, and curly fonts.
I did tell my team the other day, I said, we will never host a mug and muffin. We can have mugs, we can have muffins, but we will not. We will not have a mug and muffin.
She's going to put that in the group today, by the way.
You've isolated 100% of the women audience. That's what you've done. That's what you've just done.
I hope you're okay with that, Lauren.
I mean,
men. The only way we know how to get women is mugs and muffins. That's the only way.
Do you want a mug? Or would you
actually,
like
one that
mug,
I saw that
muffin?
was way worse was purses and prayers.
Oh, purses and prayers. What's wrong with that? I mean,
Yeah,
you guys will be bringing your
alliteration.
purses, and you're going to be praying there. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Anyway,
The
before
alliteration is what matters. Okay, I thought of my design pet peeve while you guys talked.
Nick's cutting us off.
Yeah,
That's
all
awesome.
right, hey, you know what? Enough. Okay. So I hate seeing billboards with more than 5 words on them, especially whenever
that's good.
if I can't read that thing in 5 seconds, you've failed. You have failed as a billboard artist.
Yep.
Not a billboard top 100, but a billboard graphic designer. Because I'm just thinking of one in our town right now that I know has about 100 words on it.
Oh my goodness.
They literally just threw this thing up and it has really tiny font. And I'm like, you're going to cause someone to wreck because of your idiocy. So billboards, I'm a big proponent of billboards have to be read in 5 seconds. If they can't be read in 5 seconds, it's not going on a billboard.
You would think that's common sense, but there are so many billboards out there that are like that, or just
Or like
so vague. You don't have. You're like, what? What
Phone numbers?
Or
Like, who's gonna call? Like, right? Oh, hold on 1 second. Let me write that down real quick. Is it 407?
While I'm
Runs
driving.
into the back of a semi.
Yeah, exactly.
Runs into the back of a semi. Yeah.
Protect people. Okay, keep it 5 words or less, and make sure that you don't put a phone number. Just words of wisdom from Dick Goodner.
I have actually designed a billboard.
Whoa!
I know.
I had a photo on a billboard.
Like, I
one
broke
time.
all those rules.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the company I was designing it for, they kept saying, we need more text on there. And I said, well, we can and everything. And they were like, no, we really want all this stuff on there. And I was like, it's not going to fit. It's not going to look good. And so it was actually very validating because I sent it out to the billboard company and they were like, no. You can't do that because they're like, they can't read that while driving. And so it was a good moment for me to come back as a designer and say, okay, actually the billboard company said you're going to do it.
They just thought you were making it up, though.
I think
they
so.
wanted to blame you.
It's okay.
Well, hey, Nick, this has been great, man. Thanks again.
It has been.
All right.
And I've really enjoyed it.
That's awesome. We're out. That was good, Lauren. Thank
we're
you.
out. Oh, we're out. We're done.
We're done.
Perfect.
That's it. We're out.